What's happening, good folks? Welcome to the show. I apologize for the late start. You know, life happens sometimes, but I'm here now. So let's get this thing cracking. Let's get it kicked off. I got to say, I had a guess, but with all the chatter that's going on around this football team, specifically the offense, I got a little bit of bone to pick. So what I'm going to do tonight, we're going to do a Talk to Him Tuesday. I'm going to take you guys' questions in the second half of the show. The first half of the show, I'm going to spend the first quarter of the show, just kind of talking about how I feel about, this false chatter that's going on around this football team. And then I think one of the things that is concerning is the fact that, the passing game isn't working. Jalen is sitting in the pocket. I think we can all see, based upon the film, that at times wide receivers aren't getting open. Some of that is the route running. Some of it is, quite frankly, play design. The Eagles are getting a lot of zone coverage. And in the zone coverage, their routes aren't creative enough to get the receivers open. That's up to the offensive coordinator to design, to beat coverages, specific coverages. So I'm going to draw a couple of different coverages up to you and let you see what Jalen Hurts is looking at, and let you see what the wide receivers are looking at. Because quite frankly, they're the ones that have to run the routes. They're the ones that that have to execute this offense. And let's take a look at some of the reasons why. Okay. First of all, I'm hearing so much chatter about how inefficient, this offense looks. And, I had an hour drive. That's one of the reasons why I'm running late tonight. And a lot of the chatter, on the local radio station is, hey, you got all of these weapons and you're playing it conservatively. It makes no sense. There's no reason why we can't take shots down the field. There's no reason why the passing game shouldn't look better than it looks. We need to open things up, and I'm willing to take some chances down the field to turn the football over in order to get that done. Well, first, let me say this, okay? And this team is looking eerily like the 2023 team coming off, the Super Bowl loss, where they started off, I believe, 10-0 or 10-1, and then the bottom fell out. Okay, let me address that first. This football team and that football team are two different teams for so many reasons. They're two different teams because offensively, they're a different animal. Defensively, they've got a much better defensive coordinator with much better talent. It was very clear during that season that they got it done with smoke and mirrors on both sides of the ball, okay? And on the offensive side, the problem was the turnovers. If you guys don't remember, go back to last year. The first two series of the first game in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Jalen turned the ball over on the first two possessions, an interception and a fumble, after finishing the 2023 season, okay, with 20-plus turnovers. I think 15 interceptions and something like 6 lost fumbles. They had to get the turnover situation under control in order for the offense to work more efficiently. And what I'm trying to tell you guys is one of the most determining factors of whether you win or lose football games are turnovers. It was a factor in last week's game. If Andrew Makuba doesn't intercept that ball and run it back to the plus 40, and then we take it down and score a touchdown, it's highly probable that we don't win that football game. If Kansas City scores right there, we may be looking at a 1-1 football team right now. So I want to express to you the importance of why turnovers are such a big part of the game and why the offense operates in the manner that it does. The Eagles came out of the bye week in week 5 and made the decision that they were going to be a run-first football team. And it took us all the way to the Super Bowl, all the way. And all the media and the fans and the national media did all last year was bitch and complain about the lack of passing game. The lack of passing game. You guys heard me say it so many times. I'm going to say it again. Would you rather Jalen throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns a game and they get their ass kicked and they don't make the playoffs and they don't win the Super Bowl? Is that what some of you guys want? I get it. You got a high-powered offense. But they're trying to navigate this situation. They're trying to see, can we get the run game going? And if we can get the run game going, then that's going to open up the pass game. There were plenty of games last year where you could say Jalen Hurts played very efficiently in the pass game. Did it look the way that the NFL, the prototypical offense looks? No. Because when you have that beast, Saquon Barkley, guess what? You take advantage of that. That's what smart coaches do. That was a smart thing that Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore and the addition of Vic Fangio did last year. We're going to run the football. We're going to throw it when we have the opportunity to throw it. We're going to play great defense. And they rode it all the way to a Super Bowl 59 victory. Okay? The other thing, what are y'all complaining about? This team is a 19-1 over the last 20 football games. What other team in the National Football League can boast that? But we're concerned about style? Because A.J. Brown ain't racking up 100-yard receiving games every single week, that Devontae Smith is not racking up all these yards, that Jalen isn't throwing for 300 yards? At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is winning. And sometimes in the National Football League, you have to win by any means necessary. However it is that you can get the W, you want the W. And more specifically, this time of the year. I hear, oh, you know, the preseason is just an excuse. No, it's not. No, it's not. I played in the National Football League for 13 years. There was never a time in my career where I didn't play in the preseason. Let me tell you what the preseason does. I don't care how much you train and how much practice time you get in training camp and OTAs and all that other stuff, okay? Nothing ever simulates real game like real game. We used to have a saying, there's one level to off-season, there's another level to training camp, there's another level to preseason. And when you get to the regular season, guess what? The level of intensity goes up even that much more. When you get to the playoffs, it goes up again. So you mean to tell me that these players should go through training camp, let all the rookies and all the players who are not going to be on the roster play all the preseason games because you want to keep all your guys healthy? And look around the NFL. Tell me how many quarterbacks are injured. Tell me how many players are injured. So all that saving that you did, look at how many guys that are out 4 weeks for the season because you saved them. Through preseason, you saved them for the regular season. But what does playing in the preseason do? It hardens your body. It gets you physically ready to play the game at the highest level. Why? Because preseason games are not going to be as intense as regular season games are. But you're trying to simulate as much of that as you possibly can so that when the regular season starts, you know that little bruise that you had on your forearm that you got in training camp? When you get hit on that bruise during the regular season, it doesn't phase you because you've hardened your body. These players aren't hardened. That's why you see the injuries. That's why you're seeing the soft tissue injuries, all the injuries throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. You get your timing down. The wide receivers, yeah, it's great to look great during training camp. It looks good that Jalen Hurts can throw all of these touchdowns and look great during training camp. But when the intensity level rises, timing and rhythm and flow and all of those things change because now the players are moving at a different tempo because it's controlled in training camp. You're trying not to run into somebody. You're trying not to, trip somebody up and get legs tangled up and get somebody hurt. But when the bullets are live in the regular season, nobody cares about that. Because you got to go as intently as you can against opponents that are going as intently as they can and as intensely as they can against you. So how do you find the rhythm and the flow of that when you haven't done it? The first 4 games now in today's NFL are earmarked for that. But we expect for this offense to be hitting on all cylinders in weeks 1 and 2. We're complaining because we got a first-time offensive coordinator. Jalen's what? 4th, 5th offensive coordinator in so many years? And they're supposed to have the entire package down, all adjustments and everything digested the way that it's supposed to be? Oh, and we haven't even gotten on the fact that 30 other teams have spent the entire offseason trying to figure out how we're going to stop this Philadelphia Eagle juggernaut and Saquon Barkley. How are we going to do that? And what it is that the Eagles are actually seeing that's different than probably what they prepare for because of what teams did last year, because teams have adjusted to how to stop this offense, this high-powered offense, okay? Jalen's going to see a lot of zone coverage, okay? For these people, I don't understand why they just don't throw the ball down the field. Because when you got 2 high safeties, where are you going to throw the ball? When you're playing quarters coverage, how are you going to beat the deep coverage? It doesn't work that way. The reason why they run the football and running the football is back in vogue again is because teams realize that there's only a handful of quarterbacks in the National Football League that can stand back there in the pocket and throw the ball 40-plus times and not turn it over. I would be willing to bet that if someone brought me the analytical data on how much the rate of turnovers go up when a quarterback throws the ball 40-plus times or more, I would venture to say that it goes up exponentially. Because the more you put the ball in the air, the more likely that you're going to get a strip sack, somebody's going to get beat, the more likely you're going to get fooled in coverage and you're going to throw an interception, ball's going to get tipped and you're going to get an interception. And that's why the Eagles are treading lightly here, because they don't want to get into this rut of having Jalen turn the ball over again like he did in 2023. Vic Fangio is not Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. The players on this team are not the players that were on that team. These young players are getting better and better. Vic Fangio broke out the blitz package on Patrick Mahomes in the first half, and I think we all were delighted. You know I was delighted because I'm a pressure guy. But he was smart enough not to overdo it and give a highly intelligent quarterback like Patrick Mahomes the opportunity to catch them in something, make the check, and hit a big play. This offense, having experienced, having the San Francisco 49ers come in here and rip their hearts out of their chest and precede the precipitous fall of 2023 at the end of the season. They've been through that. They're not going down that road again. Nick Sirianni is not going to put this team in that position for that to happen again. So stop the comparisons. A different year, a different team. That's not happening with this team and this roster, this quarterback, and this head coach again. You live and you learn. Be grateful for the wins. Be grateful for the Super Bowl victory. Stop complaining. Stop with the what ifs. Because worrying has never rectified or resolved not one single problem has it ever fixed or resolved. It just hasn't. The only thing that fixes problems is solutions. And the Eagles are working through those solutions as we watch them. And the best thing that they can do is win football games on the way to resolving it. By the time we get to week 5, week 6, then we should see what this team is. If they're still having these problems at that point, okay, now I can understand that conversation, but not through the first 2 weeks. Stop it, man. Stop it. Let's enjoy the ride. Let's enjoy the fact that our team is 2-0. We could be sitting in the Kansas City Chiefs' shoes right now. How would you feel about that? How would you feel if they open up the offense and start throwing the ball all over the place, trying to force things, okay, and the team was 0-2 instead of 2-0? You bitch and complain even more. But your team is undefeated right now. In first place in the division right now. And all we got to do is bitch and complain about the fact that the offense, the passing offense, isn't working. Come on, y'all. I just had to come real at y'all tonight because I'm sick and tired of hearing it. I get it. The guys on the radio, they got to have something to talk about. They got to have some topics, to talk about on a daily basis. It's hard to do radio for 4 hours and not really have a whole lot to talk about. So this is what the chatter is. And they're leading the charge and they're sucking some of you in to this nonsense. It's too early for that. Let this team figure out what their identity is going to be moving forward. You have to be happy with where the defense is going, okay? Defense is, a football team is 3 phases. And what this team does is they play complementary football. The offense has not turned the ball over one time in 2 games. The defense has had 2 turnovers, and I believe they've gotten points off of those turnovers that were pivotal in a 20-24 win and a 20-17 win. So let's stop this nonsense and enjoy the team that we have and give this coaching staff and this new OC and this quarterback a time to adapt to how teams are going to attack them this year, because it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. Jalen's going to see and Saquon's going to see a heavy box with zone behind it on first and second down. If they can get them in second and long and second and third and long situations, guess what? They're coming with the blitz. They did it last week. And they found a way to get a ball down the field to Devontae Smith that set up the touchdown. But that kind of pressure is what they're going to see, because they want the Eagles to show them that they have a remedy, okay, for how they're going to attack them. And as much as I want to see side adjustments and hot routes against the blitz and somebody going across the middle instead of all goals against blitz, I'm going to give Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo the opportunity to say, hey, we're going to make the adjustment. So let's see. Let's wait and see. All right? So quickly, I'm going to draw up some of these coverages for you guys so that you guys can see what Jalen is facing and what I think some of the issues are as far as the pass routes are concerned. Okay? So let's start with, because they most of the time live in shotgun, okay? Let's start off with a look like this, okay? So you got your end, your tackle, your end, okay? You got a linebacker, your slot corner, cornerback, okay? And 6, 7, 8, 9, safety, okay? So now you got cover two. Cover two basically means that you got a half field safety, okay? This corner's roll up in the flat. He's relating to 2. Sometimes they're going to relate 2 to 3, okay? This corner's rolled up. He's going to get here and relate to 2. And this linebacker is going to relate to 3, okay? So now, most of the time they drop. He's going to jam, sink, and drop. He's going to drop. If this running back swings, he's going to relate here. He's comes up inside. He's going to relate to the new 3. He's going to relate to the 2. Okay, but they're doing it with depth. Okay, and the problem that I have with some of what the Eagles are doing, the problem I have with some of what the Eagles are doing, okay, they're running these routes all at the same levels, okay? They're running them all at the same levels. So when you got the cornerback sitting here and the linebacker sitting here, okay, and you got the slot corner relating and this cornerback relating, you're not seeing a whole lot of people open. You saw Tom Brady in the broadcast. Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. So now you got Jalen sitting in the back there with nobody to throw to. So what I'd like to see is the Eagles be able to layer their routes. Okay? So this guy has got to get to 15 and dig. Okay? This guy has got to hook up, say at 5, 15. Okay? This route, okay, is breaking at about 10 yards. And this route over the top is with depth. So it doesn't matter. Okay? So now you got the corner. Okay? You got this guy, this linebacker is probably gonna squeeze here. Okay? This linebacker's got to trade off with the slot corner. Slot corner is gonna sink and probably pick this one up. You got this for depth. You got your safety here who's going to drive on that. But what I'm saying is you got different levels. This guy's at that level. This guy's at this level. This guy's at this level. And this guy's at this level. Okay? So now the defenders, they can't just sit on these routes. Another one. Okay? Let's just back the routes out. Okay? Let's back the routes out. How about let's get Dallas Goedert on a crossing route, okay? This guy on a sit route. This guy on a deep dig. And this guy on a stop route right here. Now look at the levels. Look at how it's layered, okay? If I'm a linebacker and I'm sitting in here relating to 2 and I see this guy come across my face, a lot of times I'm going to do that, okay? When I get this back that does that, this linebacker over here, the minute that he crosses, he's telling this linebacker, hey, crosser, because now he's got to relate to the new 2 on this side. Look at the hole that you have for this guy that's sitting down right here because you got layers. Cover 4. Okay? Corner, safety, okay? He's responsible for 1 quarter. He's responsible for 1 quarter. He's responsible for 1 quarter of the field. he's responsible for 1/4 of the field, okay? So you got a slot corner, linebacker, linebacker, okay? So these three, 1, 2, 3, they're going to try to funnel and create like a triangle. He's going to drop here, he's going to drop here, he's going to drop here. They're trying to create this triangle, if you will, to keep 1, 2, and 3 within the triangle. Now, any vertical, this safety is responsible for that, okay? When he sees the vertical, okay, gee, sorry about that, guys. My first time back on this thing, and I got to get my buttons right, okay? Okay, so any vertical threat to the safety, okay, he's got to take that. The linebacker is going to widen for anything over here to the flat. This corner is going to keep depth, but once he sees this guy get vertical, now he's essentially going to turn into a halves player, okay? Because he's got to keep an eye on this wide receiver. But my point is, if you create levels by design, then what's going to wind up happening is Jalen's going to find guys that are open, okay? No different, against a cover 3. And I'm just giving you guys as much information as I can share with you, because I want you to be able to see the game from a different perspective, okay? Cover 3. You got your 2 linebackers in the center here, okay? You got your slot corner, your cornerback, safety on the strong side, strong safety, free safety over here, okay? You're trying to get cover 3. That means you got 3 deep and 4 underneath, okay? He's got 1/3. This safety is going to rotate to 1/3, okay? This corner's got 1/3, okay? So that means he's got the flat, he's got curl, hook to curl. This linebacker's got hook to curl, and this safety's going to come down and he's got the flat, okay? So now, under normal circumstances, when you got guys crossing all over the place, then you're going to be able to beat this coverage, okay? Because they have to widen, let's say that you take the tight end up and you run them on a dig and you run the slot across, okay? Now you're playing with the eyes of the linebackers in the middle of the field, okay? When you do that and you can get this linebacker to bite over here, now you can run this stop route in here, because this corner's, he's got 1/3. This guy's taking care of the flat. Look at the void that's right here. Don't tell me these things aren't here. As a player, as a former player, if I can understand these concepts, you mean to tell me that these coaches who spend every day 12, 15-hour days doing this same stuff, that they can't figure out how to get this passing game going with all of these options? And I want you to understand that you can't just take shots down the field because you want to. Okay, guys, I'm done with the board. You can't take shots down the field because you want to. Shots down the field 9 times out of 10, they're because you're beating somebody in man coverage. And you're going to see a lot of man coverage when you get teams down, because now you got to blitz. And if you blitz, most blitzes are man coverage blitzes. Now you have some zone blitzes, and I can show you guys some of that, at another time. But for the most part, when you got a lead, now you force teams to do things that they don't want to do. That means blitzing. Now you can take shots down the field. Or if by design, these same coverages that I just showed you, that you can create routes to stress safeties. For instance, okay, you have a 2-high safety against that same formation. You run the tight end on a seam route between the 2 safeties. Now, those safeties have to react to that, because that's the dead spot, unless you're playing Tampa 2, where you take your linebacker and you run him for depth, almost like, a whole player. But if you can stress the safety and then run the outside guy on a bang 8 on a seam, now you got something. Now you've designed that route to beat the coverage. A lot of teams have route beaters. And last but not least, because when you see all of this zone coverage, most teams have an outlet for their quarterback. Saquon Barkley in the flat. Saquon Barkley on a swing route. Saquon Barkley sitting down right over center. Because the defenders are always going to play from deep to short. They don't want to give up anything behind them. So they're going to get to their landmarks, hook to curl to flat, and then they're going to begin to get depth. Because the Eagles run so many routes with depth that they're trying to make sure that they keep everything in front of them while keeping their eyes on Jalen Hurts. When Jalen looks and there's nothing there, he's got to have an outlet somewhere. Every single team has it. Whether it's the tight end blocking late and then releasing, and then you just dumping it to him, or you got Saquon Barkley check releasing and sitting down right over the center. And because there's nothing down the field, because you got coverage, you dump it off. I like my chances with Saquon Barkley catching the ball right now with a 5-yard gain and linebackers breaking up on him. That's a 5 to 10-yard gain every single time. I like it when I see Saquon Barkley swing and he's got, a corner or a safety that's coming up on him in cover 2 or cover 3. Okay? I like that one-on-one in space because we know 90% of the time he's going to win that. And now you chip away bit by bit by bit. And then what you do is when you get that cornerback, okay, or you get that safety trying to get a little cute because he's tired of being nicked and cut and nickeled and dimed. Now all of a sudden you turn around, you catch him flat-footed, you run a slant and go, or you run a go route. And that's where you get it. But you just don't line up and say, okay, we're going to take a shot here. The coverage dictates it, especially if Jalen pre-snap reads cover 4, which is quarters coverage, or he pre-reads cover 2 or 2-high safety, and one of those safeties don't rotate down. You're not getting the deep ball in that instance. You're just not, because those guys are going to get over top of it. But when you get single high, like 2 instances, when the Chiefs went for it on 4th down right out of the half and the Eagles defense stuffed them, why didn't the Eagles take a shot right then and there? And you'll say, well, you just said you just can't take a shot when you want to. No. The Chiefs came out in single high safety, which meant that box was heavy because they were anticipating run. So when you get single high safety, if I'm Jalen, okay, I got one guy running the go route, another guy running the slant because there's only one safety in the field, okay? I'm going to look one way and come back to the other side. Because the minute that I look here, that single high safety has the honor that. He's going to try to get over top of it. So I'm going to look him off, and once I get him to move, I'm going to hit the slant. Or I'm going to look left to the post, and when I get that safety to move, I'm going to come back to the go route and give AJ a 50-50 ball. They ran the ball. When the Eagles, when Andre Makuba got that interception, the first play they ran the ball against single high safety. Why did they take a shot then against single high safety? When you got the Chiefs with the box loaded, with 3 linebackers on the field against 11 personnel, and you don't take your shots? Now, I know some of you are like, well, that ain't what you said at the beginning, that you just can't take your shots. Well, the defenses, dictate what you can have and what you can't have sometimes, okay? And while they're trying to figure it out, that's about as elementary as it gets. If you really want to be honest about it, that's about as elementary as it gets. I got a loaded box. They know that we want to run the Saquon. We can go play action pass, look the safety off, come back to the other side. I used to teach my Pop Warner kids that kind of stuff. I need a drink, and I need a break. Be back in a sec. We'll open up for your calls and your, not your calls, but your questions. All right?
I know what you're thinking. Total glow up. What's her secret? Fine, I'll spill. I totally upgraded with Verizon. Everyone gets a free phone with any plan, even if you're already a customer, like me. Now I have Google Gemini. It's like a little glam squad in my pocket. Gemini, what eye makeup goes with this lipstick?
I'd suggest a classic cat eye.
Wow, setting the bar high for daycare pickup. Get in on this.
There's a number on the screen.
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 There is a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen.
There's a number on the screen. There's a number on the screen.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging, our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team. Welcome back, guys, to the Seth Joyner podcast. We're going to open it up to, some questions here. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. Tell everybody where I am. Follow me on Facebook. Make sure that, you are, subscribing on the channel. And, hey, tune in also, to the pre and post game, each Eagles game day. I think by the time we get to week 5 or 6, we're going to start our giveaways. Got some tickets to Eagles games this year. Got some autographed footballs, some mini helmets, some jerseys. Last year I think we gave away maybe 5 or 6 jerseys. So if any of y'all like me, I know you like free stuff. So make sure that you tune in and take part in that. But let's get to some of your questions. I'm going to make up for the 6 or 7 minutes that I was late. So we'll go to 8:37 tonight before we get out of here. So from this point forward, I'm going to take your questions, as many as I can get in that time frame. First question is, so Jay wants to know, the Bucs love the blitz like the Chiefs. Do you think the game plan to beat the blitz that game, or do they stay obviously to the fact? I don't think I quite understand your question, but I'm going to try to answer it anyway. Listen, the Bucs are going to blitz because they looked at the plan and they looked at the success that the Chiefs had with it. They looked at the success that the Dallas Cowboys had with it, for that matter, in the second half. So yeah, they're going to come after them. I'm hoping that the Eagles at some point, implement some side adjustments and some hot routes into their offense, so that Jalen isn't throwing a Hail Mary every single time that they come with 0 blitz. And it's not like he can't see it, because regular safety depth, whether you're in single high or two high, right around 12 to 15 yards, and those guys will creep down to 8-9 yards so that they can hit it once he gets into his cadence. The middle of the field is wide open. Why not bring A.J. Brown in motion, or Devontae Smith in motion, and on the snap of the ball, have him screaming across the field. And there's nobody in the middle of the field. If he catches that ball, if the guy misses the tackle, guess what? He's off to the races. Nobody's gonna catch him. Why not send Dallas Goedert to the flat real quick right now? Fake a blitz, go to the flat right now, get the ball out. Maybe Saquon doesn't step up because the guy that's blitzing up the middle has got him in coverage and anticipates, or the guy off the edge anticipates that he is going to pick him up as part of the protection. He fakes like he's going to block him and just leaks out. Jalen throws him the ball, and now you got 3-4 receivers down the field, one-on-one blocking everybody, and Saquon Barkley, running to bump his head off the goalpost. It's doable, but the Eagles just seem to every single time that, their adjustment to the blitz is everybody run a go. And the defenders know that that's what they're doing, so they're running stride for stride with our wide receiver. Like Devontae Smith wasn't open on that pass. Jalen just underthrew it, and Devontae saw the ball and adjusted to it, and the Kansas City Chiefs DB didn't see it. There are a lot of different ways to skin a cat. They just got to get more creative, in my opinion. Next question. These cookies, in my experience, wants to know, how much does the OC change an offense really? The scheme may be different, but can it really dial an offense back that heavily? Well, in most cases, I would say a lot, especially if you got an OC that's coming in with a whole new system and all new verbiage. And, you guys have heard some of these quarterbacks, talk, and some of the verbiage is like speaking a whole nother language. So it can be cumbersome. I wouldn't expect for it to be that different under Kevin Patullo, but I think there's an element that we failed to take into account here. The offense that was run last year was not Kevin Patullo's offense, nor Nick Sirianni's offense. That offense they ran last year was Kellen Moore's offense. So how affluent is Kevin Patullo in this offense to the point where now that he has the new duties of calling the plays and having to think 3-4 plays ahead and adjust on the fly as the game is going on, it happens really fast, okay? How succinct is he in what he's trying to do? Listen, I'm not trying to make any excuses for anybody. These guys get paid a lot of money to do what they do, okay? And the Eagles made the decision that this is the guy that they were going to go with. But I'm telling you, it does make a difference. It even makes a difference to Jalen Hurts, because the voice that Jalen Hurts is used to hearing is Kellen Moore. Now all of a sudden, and even though Kevin Patullo was his quarterback's coach, it's a vast difference between what the quarterback coach is saying and what the offensive coordinator is trying to communicate. Because even though the quarterback coach may understand and know the game plan, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's privy to all the in-game adjustments that are going on in the conversations that's going on between Jalen and Kellen Moore, or that he really understands it all. There's so much more to this thing than people really, realize and understand. It's not simple. Football is a very, very complex game. Most people talk about it in its most simplistic form, but it's not. And everything happens so fast. Every well laid out plan doesn't always work out the way that you think it should. And not every coach has the ability to communicate things in a way that players understand or the way that players get. Because I can take anybody and teach them the X's and O's of the game, and they can stand in front of a bunch of players in a room and explain, how do you run cover two? How do you run an under front? Okay? How do you run a TE stunt? How do you run a swap stunt with a defensive end and a linebacker? Yeah, they can tell you how to do that, but when the rubber meets the road and it's not being accomplished, does he have the know-how and the wherewithal to tell you how to get it done? They can tell you why, but there's a lot of coaches in this league that can't tell you how. And that within itself is problematic, okay? The other thing is, when those X's and O's that are up on the board and in your playbook, they're static. They're not doing anything in your playbook. They're right there where you expect for them to be, and they're doing exactly what you expect for them to do on the paper. But when the game is live and those X's and O's got numbers and they run and they hit and they got ill intent and they don't line up where you expect for them to line up and they don't do the things that you expect for them to do, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where the game differs between not only coaches who have the ability to adjust, but players who have the ability to say to themselves, Okay, he's supposed to line up here. I see what front they're in. I may even know what coverage they're in. Hut, man, he didn't do what I thought he was going to do. Never do. Football is a game of reaction. Some people's reactions are lightning quick. Other people disseminate information a lot slower. So yeah, it's a big deal. It makes a massive difference. Okay, next question. Daniel wants to know, with Dallas Goedert out right now, will his backup tight end Grant Calcaterra be used for receptions or more blocking in the blocking scheme for the two running backs? Well, listen, now, I thought that Grant Calcaterra, played a piss poor game last week blocking. There's no denying his ability to catch the football. But playing tight end, there's a reason why Dallas Goedert is the starting tight end. Because he can block and he can get out in the pass route and catch the football. But, there's a reason why he's a starter and Grant Calcaterra is, the backup. There's a precipitous drop off. I used to always say, there's a reason why I'm the starter and I got a backup. Because if that guy could do what I do, he'd be starting, right? Now, I'm not trying to disparage Grant Calcaterra in any way. I think we all know that he's not an efficient pass blocker. But if they're going to put him on the field as a replacement for Dallas Goedert while he's injured, then he's got to get the job done. Or Nick Sirianni and Kevin Petullo's got to look in another direction. I thought that, when they really wanted to run the ball, but it's kind of a dead giveaway, that they would go with the 6 offensive linemen, in some circumstances. And that kid, I can't remember his name. Somebody throw it up in the chat and my producers will send it to me. He played fullback last week. I want to say Latu. Now, he can block. And I got a sneaky suspicion that he might start getting a whole lot more playing time because he was laying Kansas City Chiefs defenders out last week. Yes, Latu. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it, but he was bringing the wood. He wanted all the smoke, and he was given all the smoke last week. So I think that it's a concern because, if you go with the extra lineman, and that pretty much tells you that lineman is a tight end, is not necessarily going out in the pass route. So now you're down to maybe 3 guys in the route instead of the 4, and the Eagles like to get everybody out in the route. They don't like to block their tight ends. And then when you come back and you put the tight end in, it's almost a dead giveaway. Smart football players and coordinators are going to look at that and make the adjustments accordingly. Next question. Old Broccoli Head wants to know what kind of game the Rams will display next week. I don't think the Rams are going to change a whole lot. This will be the barometer for the Eagles to tell us where they are and where they really need to be, because I think this will be their sternest test to date on both sides of the ball. The addition of Devontae Adams to the wide receiver core, along with Puka Nacua, who is playing out of his mind right now, Kyron Williams at running back, and of course, perennial All-Pro Matt Stafford. They're stacked. They got a lot. So for the defense, this is going to be, their sternest test yet. And, their defense was ascending last year. And I think a lot of them felt like, if the weather had cooperated in Lincoln Financial Field, that, they were on track to be able to, minimize offensively what the Eagles were doing. Now, that's yet to be seen because Saquon just destroyed them on 2 different occasions last year for 200 yards on both occasions. So they still got to manage that. But I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. The fact that it's in week 3, I think they're working through some things. The Eagles are working through some things. And I still like the Eagles to win the game. But I think this is going to be their most hard-fought game to date. Next question. Gerardo wants to know, Seth, longtime fan from El Paso. Good to hear from you, my man. For y'all that don't know, I went to University of Texas El Paso for college. Why aren't we benching Adoree Jackson? He looks lost out there. I think Adoree played better last week than he did the week before. I believe that, if there was a better option, that they would go to him. I think that they've completely lost confidence in Keely Ringo. Um, it's weird to me that the only time that um, Jakarian Bennett gets any run is if somebody gets injured. That guy's been in the league for a little while. Most guys, it'll maybe take them two weeks to get up to speed as to what the defense is and what's required. The fact that Adoree Jackson hasn't performed at the highest level and we haven't seen him replaced with Jakarian Bennett, that tends to point to me that Jakarian Bennett is not picking up the defense as swiftly as they probably thought that he could, which in turn might be the reason why he became available via the trade. Because you got a guy that's got size, it's a 4'3", 40 guy. And when you have guys that potentially have skills, he'll come up and tackle and he'll hit you. But when you have a guy that has possessed skill sets like that, and he's spent a few years in the league, and the team's willing to move on him for a fifth, sixth, or seventh round, that tells me that there are some other underlying issues, that aren't apparent until you get him in the building. All right. Next question. Leon Banks wants to know, will Philly's pass rush overwhelm Stafford, or can McVay scheme around it? Listen, I think that Sean McVay understands that, you look at Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is playing out of his mind right now. Not only has he been great against the run, but he's ramped up his pass rushing. You guys remember when they first drafted him, I said, man, they got to get that guy down about 325. That's the only way he's going to be as effective as they may want him to be. It's the only way he's going to be a pass rusher. In his fifth year, without the Eagles picking up the option, a fourth year, his contract is up basically. He knows that he's got to get it right. All of a sudden, boom, he's down to 230 and playing the best football, of his pro career. You just know that Jalen Carter is chomping at the bit. He's going to break out. And I think that in a lot of ways, Sean McVay knows that this team can get after Matthew Stafford. They got after him in the snow last year quite a bit. So I think the game plan for the Rams coming in is that, hey, try to establish the running game. They've got an able-bodied running back. They're going to try to establish the running game, even though the Eagles have been pretty damn good against the run through 2 weeks. Try to establish the running game and go to the quick game off of play action, because the Eagles at times, they will play their cornerbacks off the ball, 8 to 10 yards. Especially in their quarters coverage, they will play those cornerbacks off the ball. And seasoned veterans like Matthew Stafford, especially if they get a wide receiver on one side, both Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams are the type of wide receivers that, Matthew Stafford would just look over there and see that guy 8 yards off the ball and raise up with a run play call and just throw it out there and let him one-on-one, against Adoree Jackson. I'm more worried about that than I am anything else. Him missing a tackle and a guy breaking out in the safety, one-on-one in the open field. So I think the quick game is going to be, that's how you take away one's ability to bring the blitz. Because Vic Fangio has showed him, hey, I'll come at you and I can disguise it. But at the other end of the spectrum, there are times when Vic plays conservative football, and when he plays conservative football, I can assure you Matthew Stafford is going to be trying to get that ball out of his hands as fast as he can. All right. Next question. Isaiah Alexander wants to know, who is at fault for the last Mahomes touchdown? You're from Trinidad and Tobago, man. Thanks for tuning in, my brother. It's hard to tell because they were in single high safety, and it looks as though Quignon was actually expecting center field help. And you could see right away, you got a dig route. You remember I was talking about those levels to the routes? You got a dig route in front of Reed Blankenship. I don't know that the linebackers got enough depth where he felt comfortable enough to just get depth. Probably scared that, the ball was going there. But, you got a post route with a dig route Well, let me do it. You got a post route with a dig route right underneath it. So in Reed's vision, oh, that dig route is wide open. And the quarterback is looking primarily in the same direction, but he's reading the low and the high. So he's pretty much saying, okay, if that free safety stays deep, I'll hit the dig route. If that free safety jumps the dig route, then I got the post because I got the corner outside. So it's really hard to say. But, from my perspective, I feel like Reed Blankenship jumped a route that he probably shouldn't have jumped too early. All right, next question. Paul wants to know, can I get the suit you wore on Sunday in your merch store? No, but you can go to divine9s.com. My wife is my tailor. She custom makes all of my suits, all of my dress shirts, all of my golf pants and golf shorts. So you absolutely can get that suit and many, many other items. All right. Eddie W wants to know, if I were GM, what would be my next move, if any, at this point in the season? I think the most concerning area is probably, the cornerback, but you kind of face some of the same situations. I didn't know that Asante Samuel Jr. was out there because he was still injured or coming back off a serious injury. So he's physically unable to perform. Then you've got Stephon Gilmore is still out there. Cornerbacks, especially starting cornerbacks, are such a premium in the National Football League that no one's going to trade one to you that's worth his salt. So I guess the Eagles really kind of feel stuck from the standpoint that, you got a Dory Jackson. You have no confidence in Keely Ringo. Jacorian Bennett's not showing you that, he's ready to take the bull by the horn. So, you're kind of stuck with where you at. There's not a whole lot that they can do, without having to give up something major. Now, as time goes on, you get to the trade deadline, you get some injuries that start to happen. You get some teams that fall to like 0-5, 0-6 and start a fire sale. You may be able to, trade away a, second round or a third rounder, for a starting cornerback. But that guy's still got to come in and figure out the system, get acclimated, and get on point, with the other guys. That's why I felt like, the Eagles moving on from Isaiah Rodgers was such a big mistake, because I thought he really could have been that guy. But, what he commanded in the free agent market, the Eagles just weren't going to spend that, on a cornerback. So, all right, a few more here. MP wants to know, does not playing the starters in preseason hurt offenses or defenses more? I'm more inclined to believe that it hurts the offenses more, because, a lot of offenses are predicated on timing and rhythm. The least live actions that they get, the harder it is to get the rhythm down, because you can run routes on air all you want. These quarterbacks get together with wide receivers from their team and other teams, and they get together and they work all off season long. That doesn't mean it's going to pan out the way that you think it is in the game, because listen, at the end of the day, cornerbacks are up jamming, they're rerouting. Sometimes they're playing outside technique. Very rarely they're playing inside technique. They're doing a myriad of different things. They're off, making you think that they're going to play you one way, and at the snap of the ball, they come up and they try to get the jam on you. So there's a lot going on offensively. Then, you're trying to get the timing and the rhythm for your offensive linemen. When you got these combination blocks, zone blocking, pulling, all of these things, they take time to get the rhythm and the timing down. Even in the screen game, the Eagles traditionally have not been a good, running back screen team, because it takes such perfect timing. And some of these things, you either have it or you don't. But when you don't play in the preseason and then you try to attempt to do it in the regular season, there's this learning curve, because you got to screw it up and then you got to get coached up on it. And then once you get coached up on it, then you got to go out and you got to do it again. It's just a habitual thing. And no matter how much you run it in practice, it will never look and feel the way that it looks in a live game. That's just factual. All right. Last question before we race up out of here for the evening. Andre wants to know, who do I think is the biggest threat to the Eagles in the NFC? Right now, I think the Green Bay Packers. Detroit kind of reared his head a little bit last week with that, 50 burgers that they put up on the Chicago Bears, but I don't know if the Chicago Bears are really all that good. And, if you look, when you watch the highlight, there was a lot of man coverage that the Chicago Bears were in. And I think that ego got the best of the Chicago Bear defensive coordinator because he refused to get out of it. And Jared Goff had time to throw the ball, and he just shredded them, from top to bottom. So until I see a little more of the Detroit Lions, I'm going to reserve my opinion on where they are. But if they bounce back and they play like they played last week, specifically offensively, they're a threat. But I think right now the Eagles' biggest threat is going to be the Green Bay Packers. All right, folks, that's the show for tonight. Tune in next week. I'll be right here, same place, same time. Hopefully we're talking about, the Eagles moving to 3-0. The NFL didn't do them any favors by giving them this record that they have. You get the Kansas City Chiefs, you get the LA Rams, and you get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Boom, boom, boom. And, the only reason I don't give you the rest is because right now I can't recall it off the top of my head, but it doesn't get any easier. It's just one playoff team after another. I think the Eagles play 10 playoff teams from last year. So they're just going to have to go out and show and prove every week that they are who they are, that they are the world champions, and they are still to be reckoned with. All right, I'm out. Listen, you guys, as always, make sure you take care of each other and be good to each other. But most important, especially in this world that we live in today, make sure you love each other because love conquers all. Peace. I'll see you guys next week.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
If you understand that success is built on trusted relationships and dependable performance, Mid-Penn Bank is the right bank for you. We're on a mission to prove that the right bankers can make a big difference. We work harder, we get things done, and we're in your corner. With financial centers strategically located throughout the greater Philadelphia region and new locations in central New Jersey, we're ready to bring you the best in commercial and personal banking. Call or visit us today to connect with a professional Mid-Penn banker. Member FDIC. Go Eagles!
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.